there's an interest for it. I had a group of artists gathered them together, and they had presented something to form like an art and culture center in the town, and that actually got formed. But the first art show they had didn't include any of those artists that helped them get their initial funding, and they did have some controversial art, but they also had some mainstream art that could have been displayed in their shows. Not every artist, just because I do nudes doesn't mean I couldn't do flowers too.
Right.
Not invite without guidelines. That's really kind of this whole thing I felt. So it's more, it's a grown up way of doing it, but there definitely is a prejudice out there, and I don't think I think it's more even just like familiar and unfamiliar. What people they believe that the town is, or what they believe that the area is, and how much it can take versus the reality of what the area can actually take it's a lot more liberal than it is on the surface. But everyone's afraid of the imaginary conservative that I haven't run across unless there was something wrong with them. Really, I had to take, this past year, I had to take nudes down out of my lobby that I had up for years, and that was because, one of the businesses switched rooms, and they were starting to have homeschoolers come in and take art classes, and they were worried that a naked fairy was going to upset a conservative homeschooling parent. But the truth is that there were a lot of times when some of the parents would wander into my studio and look at my art and really enjoy it and have long conversations with me, because as you can tell, I'm a talker. But the fear, it's more the fear of it that is the threat, and really the kind of the annihilation and the separation that happens, the fear of it, not the actual people being freaked out by a boob or a pentagram or an ankh symbol or a picture of two dudes kissing or whatever, whatever you think the controversy is. It really, I've known really conservative people who were into art, and there were some things that just didn't, it wasn't their taste, but it didn't really bother them. We'd go to New York, and I'd go with a 70, 80-year-old woman, and we went into one gallery, and the pictures were very small, so you really couldn't tell from the street what was in there. So you had to get very close, like almost your face away from the photograph, and they were all BDSM photography. And we had, one was her husband was a Baptist preacher his whole life, and the other lady was not completely conservative, but I don't think she looked at BDSM photographs every day of her life. And I was a little bit, I looked at it, oh my God, because it wasn't something I was expecting. But the preacher's wife laughed at it. The Southern Baptist preacher's wife was like, oh, that's so funny. As soon as she walked up, because we had no idea what it was. And when you saw the receptionist and the people in the gallery that worked there kind of cover their mouths as we walked in, not knowing what we would see. I think people can take it, is what I mean. I think they can handle a little bit of controversy for thought, as long as it's not offensive.
Right. Well, the thing is, some people
can make or glory.
Yeah, some people can actually take anything offensive, regardless of what it can possibly be. So that's how I look at it.
Well, the difference these days is that what's offensive and what's simply, oh, I just don't like that. The line tends to blur now because it seems like, oh, I don't like that, so it must be offensive, which means it must be bad. And that's kind of the way that
when you isolate yourself, I think the internet has a way of, unfortunately, it connects us all, but a lot of times it isolates and insulates us into some weird troll universe where we kind of get absorbed with our thoughts. And if you have, the fish tank is full of all the same fish all the time, anything different coming into the tank would feel weird.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in everyday life you run into a million people, a bunch of different types of personalities and combinations of, whereas online you sort of synthesize your viewpoint down to quick glibs and sound bites and buzzwords and things like that. Like everyone campaigning. I'm picking a side! This is the reason why it's all bad, because of this, not because of that. It is bizarre. It is bizarre, the sides that people wind up picking. Like just in the Orlando shooting, you watch that, like, at the very beginning of it, it felt like, well, this is an attack on the gay community. And it really looked that way. And then you find out that he was a Muslim, and so a little bit of information combined with that, the Muslims, gay people, like, they must, This is why this happens. Massive shootings. But the guy was, like, out of the closet, and he wasn't, he didn't go to church 5 times a day. He wasn't an Islamic extremist. He was just someone who was mentally ill. He was being rejected
crazy guy.
By people, and went and shot at the clothes. And there is no side in that. There's no side in it, because it's not that he was against gay people. He wasn't. He was just mad that some didn't like him back. That's kind of not, that has nothing to do with politics at all. It has to do with someone having access to a gun and taking it into a club and shooting everybody up because they got pissed off that day. And it speaks to mental illness. It speaks to a different kind of humanity. It doesn't necessarily speak to any side at all. At that point, it's not about gay hate or the Islam hating American gay clubs or any of that. It wasn't like that. The dude was partying in them a lot, and apparently he got around a lot too. Everybody had his number, and he partied all the time. So when you actually read some of the background on things, it just gets synthesized very early on in the media, and then social media often is really good at synthesizing the wrong information.
This is true.
Having it so
but it's on the internet. It must be true.
Yeah, for real. And then I've been corrected many a time. If I tend not to post memes anymore, because it's just, even though it like says a sentiment, people are expecting it to actually have like newsworthy content in it. It's just like, unless it's a cat poster, I usually don't post it. Nothing with percentages on it, because half the time it's wrong. So there's no bibliography on a meme, unfortunately.
See, that sounds like a good reference book, the meme bibliography.
Right.
Someone should get on
it. Footnotes of the meme.
Okay, we're gonna cycle back into the show a little bit. That was some good conversation, though. Like I said, I'm the one that always kind of pushes the show into the controversy area,
Right.
and kind of pulls everybody along with me. So,
Right.
but background to the show. Like you said, you're of course one of our sponsors. What is your favorite part about the show?
I actually like hearing the evolution of a band or a musician, especially if I've known them. They recently did an interview with Zerp, and I forget the hurdy-gurdy player's name, and I apologize for that. But I know he's a real tall dude, and I've seen him a lot at the different events that I've done, and I didn't know that he was in like the hurdy-gurdy was his instrument to lead him into a lot of success, but that he actually had the band that was being interviewed was actually the band that led him to the band that I'm familiar with seeing him with, which is Spawn. And they've had his other band Zerp performing more at some of the events that I've done, and I didn't know. I didn't know that one had always been a project parallel to the other, and I did think that was interesting.
I didn't know that either until he said something.
Yeah, and it is interesting to find out how things work and what inspires musicians, maybe their thought process of how they go about things creatively. To hear about the different places they've been too. I mean, some of them they live in, they'll tell you about their Sunday in the summertime where it's like, and you get to hear about it. I like that part of the conversation, hearing and being able to hear different types of music versus just standard.
That's cool. So since you've been a sponsor with us, have you got any kind of reaction, any clicking on your Facebook or any feedback at all?
I have. I actually have. I've gotten a good response from more customers. I've gotten more visits at my Etsy store, online and in social media, things like that. I think it's really helped me to get my name out just a little more, and sort of it's affordable. And
right.
There's no map for this for me as an artist, as a fantasy artist trying to reach people. They don't write that book. They might tell you how to shade properly with charcoal, but they really don't tell you how to market your art. And this is a good marriage to it, and it does help me contribute to something. I forget the expression, but it's rising tides lifts all boats. So that when you're bringing everything up another level, you raise up with that level as well, and then you all go into the surf together. That kind of theory, I feel like,
very good point.
Getting the exposure, but then getting other people exposure as well. But the sponsorship is providing an avenue for the music to be heard, and people will come listen to the music, but they will also notice that I'm sponsoring the show as well, because it's fairly prominent the way it's listed. So that does does help to be a sponsor on it, but also is contributing to art and community, which is what the base of my business is about. And it's not the same as corporate America.
Mm-hmm.